Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I'm going to be giving you guys the best tips and brawlers for every single map in the Master League Challenge. Let's get into it. Just before we get into the video, if you're picking anything up for Christmas in the shop, make sure you're using code TOM. So the prize for the Master League Challenge is going to be a mega box at 12 wins, but you also get some smaller prizes, I'm sure, along the way. You're going to need to get 12 wins before you get 4 losses, and they're going to be played on 3 different maps, which means you're going to need 4 wins on each map. Now, in the patch notes, it doesn't say you can actually buy any more tries with gems, so I'd imagine it's going to be 4 losses and you're out. Okay, so map number 1 is going to be Super Stadium. So just before we jump into it, I believe that every single brawler you have will be essentially maxed out for this challenge, which means you'll be able to use whatever star power, whatever gadget, and also whatever gears that you want. So on all of these maps, you want to be using the speed gear because they're all very, very grassy. And then on brawlers with more than, I would say, 6,000 or 7,000 HP, you want to be using the damage gear. If the brawler has less than, say, 6,000 HP, you probably want to use that shield gear. And on Frank, I like to use the resistance gear and the speed gear because it's going to help you out a little bit. So getting into the first map here then, Super Stadium. So something to note about the game is that it is very different when played with gears. It means that on those grassier maps, particularly in Brawl Ball, tanks become so strong. Of course, with these balance changes as well, Primo got buffed, Daryl got buffed, and Lola got nerfed. So it's going to make tanks even better than they were before. So all the main comps in these maps do actually have mainly tanks in them because I believe tanks are going to be the strongest on all of these Brawl Ball maps because tanks are just so good with gears and in particular on these maps as well. So the best comp that I've gone for Super Stadium is going to be Primo, Poco, and Frank. Now, we also have some other options as well. Obviously, there's so many good tanks, especially with these new balances. I think Daryl's going to be amazing. Frank's great. I also think Primo's really good. Rose is so good. Jackie's amazing. And you also have brawlers like Buzz as well. So there is just so many tanks to choose from that I feel like you can kind of pick whichever ones you want and you're going to be able to win. So for another comp, I've gone with Rosa, Daryl, and Poco. Again, there's just so many strong tanks right now, so it's really hard for me to pick between them, but I do think Frank is probably one of the better ones just because he has so much HP. So obviously in these comps, you're going to be playing Poco in mid, and then Frank or whatever tanks you have are going to be on the lanes. And then if you don't want to go with a tanky comp, which I wouldn't recommend unless you're going to counter them in some way, so I'd recommend going with a B or a Lola in mid, and then as I've said on this graphic here, a Spike or a Sandy lane. You could also go things like Tara lane, Surge lane, but in general, I would recommend playing tanks on this map. Okay then, so for the next map, we have Center Stage. This one is even better for tanks than the last map. So as you can see, there is so much grass in the mid, which makes it so good for tanks, and so good for tanks, especially because of those speed gears. So the main comp I've gone for this map is Poco, a Frank, and a Rosa. The reason I've gone for Rosa is because Rosa obviously thrives in the grass, especially if you're using that first star power. And yeah, I think Rosa could be great here. I've also gone with a Poco, Shelly, Jackie. Now, call me crazy for saying Shelly, but Shelly has been used in competitive quite a few times recently on very grassy maps. I feel like Shelly would be amazing here. It's pretty much a tank. It's so good with the speed gear because you can get up close to people very quickly. It basically, it is a tank, but also counters tanks. A lot of people are going to be playing tanks, and is also very good against pretty much every single brawler because of that speed and grass. You can sneak up on people so easily, so definitely don't underestimate Shelly. And I've gone with Jackie as well because I feel like Jackie could also be pretty good. But yeah, tanks, as I said, on these maps and in particular in Brawl Ball are so good. And then finally, I've gone with a non-tank comp just to give you the option if you did want to use something other than tanks. So we've gone with the Rico, Tara, and Jean. We have obviously got the Rico and the Tara to counter the tanks, and then just a Jean because it's very good at scouting the bushes. But yeah, particularly on this map, I would definitely not go into this map without like at least 2 tank counters, just because there's going to be so many tanks on this map just because of that grass in the middle. So yeah, definitely be wary. People are definitely going to play tanks on this map. Before we get to the final map, 65% of you guys are not subscribed, so make sure to go ahead and subscribe. Okay, so the final map is going to be field goal. So this one, you can see it's a little more long range than the other maps, particularly in mid. But again, there's grass on the lanes and in mid as well. So tanks are going to be very, very good. But I feel like out of all the maps, this is probably the worst one for tanks, but I still think they're the best comp here. So again, for the best comp, I've gone with Frank Poco. This time I've gone with the Daryl because it's a little more long range. You probably want something like Daryl that has a roll that can get close to people, and I honestly think Daryl could potentially be so broken with these balance changes. So the next comp I've gone with here is going to be a Primo, Byron, and Buzz. The reason I've gone with this comp, I've gone with the Byron in mid, is because you can see in the mid, it's going to be a little bit longer than the previous two maps. That longer range in mid is going to favor the Byron a little bit more, but I still feel like Poco is just still better just because of the HP and the healing aspect as a little bit better with Poco. But yeah, you can definitely play Byron on this map with two tanks if you want. The tanks I've gone with here is going to be Primo and Buzz. Again, Buzz just because you have those supers to get kind of close to people, just because it's a little more long range. And then for the final comp on this map, again, I've gone with a B. You could go with a Lola if you want in the mid, but after Lola getting nerfed, and I know B is just going to be a solid pick, especially to counter tanks. Again, Sandy with that speed gear is going to be so good on the lane. And then you have the M's to obviously help you counter those tanks. You have the M's and the B to counter the tanks, then the Sandy just because it's going to be really solid. But yeah, obviously you want M's and Sandy on the lanes, B in the mid, and you should be able to beat tanks with this comp. But honestly, I think tanks can pretty much beat anything. So yeah, it's going to be tough either way. That's it for the video. Good luck and peace.